Hi, I'm Mike with House on the Mend, and in this video we are going to transform this area underneath our basement stairway from this to this to this. Each one featuring full extension drawer slides. So let's get started.
House on the Mend.
Well, so far in this series where we are finishing our basement, we have installed this ceiling to cover up the HVAC system that was running all the way through the hallway here. We've insulated it, sound deadened it, and put in resilient channel and the LED lights. Then, in the next video, we made this awesome doghouse right at the bottom of the stairwell where the space wouldn't have been that usable otherwise, and we just think that turned out fantastic. Next in the series, we are going to be utilizing this space underneath the stairs for pull-out storage. So I am going to be using these tubs that you just get from Home Depot. These are 27-gallon. They're about $15 each. And I will be able to, when we are done, fit 12 of these totes right inside this area from right here to right here. Now, to do that, I'm going to need to remove this stud here and this stud here. I need to frame up the area underneath the stairs right here because we are going to be putting like 1x stock across here that we're going to attach the full extension drawer slides that are pretty heavy duty. They hold about 400 pounds. And we need to trim out this whole area, put in sheetrock up on the ceiling and around the back. So we've got plenty of framing to do first, and then we'll get into actually figuring out the height of each drawer, and we will be building those boxes. So these two here are going to have 2 high and 2 wide drawers. So they come out 40 inches. That'll be more than enough space for these 2 bins to be, and there'll be 2 bins on top of them. And we'll be able to do that 4-bin drawer twice right here. And then back here, we'll be able to do 2 and 2. So there'll be a bottom section like this with 2, and then another section up here we can pull out and 2. And there'll be a little bit more space when we pull out this upper one right in this area here for like a plastic bin that holds wrapping paper. That's something that Brooke really wants to keep here and keep accessible since they're such long tubes. What are they, 36 inches or long or so, those tubes of wrapping paper. So first thing I want to do is remove this blocking. It's not structural at all, but it is going to be in the way. And then at the same angle as the stair stretchers, we're going to cut this stud I've marked out right there, this one here, and then we will put a full 2x4 across up here, screw it into place with GRK structural screws. Same here. We are going to build this wall so that we can attach on both sides to it the 1x pine stock that's going to actually hold the pull-out drawer slides. And then I've already put some blocking right here where you can see I need sheetrock to go on this side, but then also on the back side. And since this area wasn't originally designed to be finished on the inside, this kind of extra 2x4 here, here, and here is necessary so we can attach the drywall. So, without any further ado, here we go. Here's a look at our progress thus far. I have framed out this center wall here with several 2x4s, and I have put in sheetrock on the back wall here. I'm going to wait to sheetrock up these interior walls until I know where the second row of tracks is going to go. Now, down here I have 3/4 inch pine stock that is the substrate for our full extension drawer slides. You can see how far they're going to come into the hallway. Now, two things about these. First of all, here's a little tip on putting in the drawer slides themselves. So here's another good example of how a laser level can be very helpful. I'm getting ready to install these full extension drawer slides. So on both sides of this little box here, I've got 2x stock with some 3/4 inch trim set on it that I was going to rest the tracks on. But look at this. Over here, it's set perfectly. And then as you go back, it drops down, man, more than 1/4 of an inch. But then from left to right, it's down 1/8 of an inch and also down lower in the back. So a laser level will get us perfectly level. And another challenge we face was actually my fault, and it's not level so much as it is square. So when putting down this center piece of pressure treated 2x4, my daughter, who's just about to go off to college, came down and was all excited to help Dad explosively drive some nails down with our ram set. So I was all too happy to help her and keep her safe while having a good experience, and I just took it for granted, shamefully, that this stud here lined up perfectly with the stud on this wall. And when it all was said and done and I finally started measuring things out, it was only then, too late, that I realized that it's actually off square by 1/2 an inch. So as you can see in these videos here on either side, front to back, I had to go in and shim out the two center pieces so that we're parallel on both openings. All right, now we are going to head over and build some boxes. So I took a piece of graph paper and I drew out the pieces and parts I needed and arranged them so I could get the most efficient use of the two very expensive sheets of 3/4 inch birch plywood. I then used my Craig Jig AccuCut track to cut down the sheets into the more usable pieces. One 3/4 sheet of birch plywood yielded enough for the large box and the small box to go on the bottom of both sides. The next thing I need to do is put a 1/2 inch dado all the way through each of these 4 boards to receive the 1/2 inch plywood I'm going to put at the bottom. I am using pocket hole joinery to construct this box. I have 3 sides already glued and screwed into place. Now let's tip it up on its side. Let's put in the base and then screw all that together. As you can see in this picture, the very tips of these pocket hole screws are just poking through this 3/4 inch plywood. So with the flapper wheel attached to my grinder, I'm going to very carefully shave those down so as not to mar the wood. Now with the last little bit of plywood that was left when I cut down for these two boxes, I made these little stretchers here for these taller pieces so that there's a little bit more support up top throughout the years of opening and closing. So the screws that come with the full extension drawer slides are, as you can see in this picture, a little bit short. So it works out that I can put these rails, these detachable rails, right in line with the 1/2-inch plywood bottom. And if these screws ever show themselves to be too small and not big enough to handle this load, then I can just replace them with longer, deeper screws and get purchase inside of the actual plywood base. So I think that's a pretty good idea. I'm going to be pre-drilling all these holes, so I have my little switch driver here made by Works, and it has a drill on one and the Phillips on the other. This is my favorite go-to kind of light to medium duty screwdriver drill, and without having to switch drills, I can just go back and forth between the drill bit and the screwdriver. Nice. Oh man, hard to complain about that. So with the bottom row in, I marked the spot where our next board should go. Now I have a laser line so that I can come in here and make a perfectly level next piece of trim. And now once I get the rest of these screws in, I will be able to measure and cut for all the remaining drywall while I'm at it. All the drywall's in. We've put joint compound on the screws and the brakes in the drywall and then painted everything. And now the final drawers are assembled and installed and everything looks great. The next thing I want to do is start working on the faces. So I'm going to take the 1/2-inch birch plywood. I'm going to cut out an exact replica of these openings, leaving about 1/4 inch all the way around to allow for any shifts in movement as you're pulling out the cabinets, and then also any sagging. And then I'm going to install the bottom sides. I have measured right here and down here so that I can make cuts square across those sheets. And I'm going to install the bottom sheets first with initially just glue and nails. Then I'll come from behind and I'll finish by screwing those panels in. That way I can then set up with some shims a gap that will be equal on both, and I will put the top pieces in. Once all those are in like this, then we can start trimming everything out and getting the final look. All 4 drawers are faced and painted, and then I took the time with 3¼ inch MDF to trim out and define the space all the way up to the ceiling. So now it's time to put the trim around the actual drawers, and instead of MDF I'm going to be using 1/2-inch pine boards. I had to plane them down actually, and I'm going to go around and let's start trimming everything out. These drawers are going to be taking a lot more abuse opening and closing than a normal wall, so therefore I'm going to be using construction adhesive. I'm going to be using crown staples and then backing up with 3/4 inch screws from behind the panels. And I think that'll give everything enough rigidity that we won't have stuff coming loose or falling off. And then the drawer pulls that we'll put on last are going to be on the actual face, not on the trim, so we don't have to worry about pulling trim off or anything like that with our drawer pulls. Now between the trim on both sides, I want to have a 3/4 inch gap here. I think that'll look pretty nice. But instead of hoping this board is straight and holding it in place the whole time, I just took some tape and I marked out those lines, so as we're bringing up the pieces and getting them set into place, we can work them off this bottom piece of 4-inch baseboard, and then we can also just pivot them ever so slightly so that they are in place with that 3/4 inch gap. Everywhere else, such as up here, is going to be a very fine gap over here, and then we're going to overlap on that side and obviously right here to try to hide as many of these lines as we can to the eye. After that highly enjoyable montage, I went through a spackle and filled in all the nail holes. Then I sanded everything by hand, one of my least favorite tasks, followed by vacuuming up all the dust, and then painted all of the trim. And so our last step is to install the drawer pulls. Now, I went with a pull that is rounded, that does not have pieces sticking out, so no clothing or vacuum cords or anything like that can get stuck on it. In fact, we picked these rounded ones that look like something would go on a file cabinet, which is fitting for this. All right, I am going to use this cabinet pull jig. I'll leave a link for it in the description below. I have it all set up and I've measured out for the center of this drawer. And we're just going to set this in place, line it up with that center line. And I'm going to drill right through the holes provided. I'm actually just going to start them and then take the tool away and finish the holes. Now in my case, because I'm coming through the 1/2 inch plywood and the 3/4 inch plywood of the actual box, I had to purchase longer screws. Some of your kits, when you buy hardware, will come with 2 separate lengths of screws, but in our case I had to buy some longer ones, and they were easily available right at Home Depot. Now once I test fit everything, I'll probably go back with Loctite and put a drop of Loctite on each one of these screws. That way we never have to worry about them coming loose and being all wobbly. Flick of the switch, and now we're over to screwdriver mode. Nice, comfortable location. All right, 3 more. And there you have it. Another very rewarding completed project. This is a great use of otherwise neglected space. It looks nice, clean, I'm so happy with it. Now there's one more step that I'll do later when I get this whole interior hallway done, which is to take caulking and go around any of the edges that the paint hasn't covered up. But I want to have enough of it done that I'm not just partially opening a tube of caulk and possibly letting it dry out. So if you found this video helpful, will you please give it a thumbs up? It's really helpful to the channel. Also, please consider subscribing. We're doing a full series on this basement, and there's a lot more other projects to come. I am going to take a break from the basement to work on our chicken coop. As you can see here, the materials just arrived and fall is coming, so I need to get that done. But the plans for that coop came from a very famous, very successful YouTuber, so there's no need for me to recreate a video on that. Once that's done and a couple other things in the backyard that I might show you, then we'll get back to this series. Now I'm going to leave a link for all the various tools and items, the full extension drawer slides that I used. Full disclosure, those will be an Amazon affiliate link. So if you click on it and end up making any kind of purchase, it won't cost you a thing, but I do get a small reward at the end of the month. Until next time, thank you for watching. Hey, not helpful.